What's up, vaqueros, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing awesome and having a great day. We are getting dangerously close to the new Warzone iteration. Of course, I will be definitely covering everything in that I can, but I'll also still be covering Modern Warfare 3. I'm not going to abandon ship just like I did last year with Modern Warfare 2 completely, so rest assured we will be getting both games going forward. But with today's video, I wanted to talk about shotguns and suppressors. Now, it's not often you see people rocking a suppressor. Normally, you're rocking a choke for good reasons, but I wanted to go over the suppressors. What are the best ones that we can use for a shotgun? Are they even worth it, or is it still just better to run a choke overall? So we're going to go over that in today's video. I will have timestamps below in the description if you want to hop to a certain point. I'll also share with you guys my favorite suppressed shotgun build that you'll see in the gameplay here with the Lockwood 680. So it's a suppressed Lockwood 680 build that's very fun to use, and I definitely encourage you guys to at least try it out, and you'll see that in this video. So of course, timestamps below in the description. So here we are in the gunsmith, and I'm going to show you guys the 5 suppressors we have access to. There's the Trident Core, which is from Modern Warfare 2, SAMX50, again from Modern Warfare 2, the new Tectonica suppressor from Modern Warfare 3, the SA Schwein DX and the SA Schwein XS, also both from Modern Warfare 2. So that's kind of fun. We only really got one new suppressor for the shotguns. So what I want to do is show you guys my 2 picks for the better suppressors. The SAMX50 is one of them, and the Tectonica suppressor are the others. Now, the reason for that is the pros and cons. With suppressors in this game, you lose range. You do not gain range like you did in Modern Warfare 2. So with the Trident Core, you lose about 12%, but you don't really get any aim down sights penalties. But with the SAMX50, you can see we lose a little bit less range. We get some bullet velocity, but our aim down sight speed is hurt by about 18%, which isn't really that great. You want to be snappy with a shotgun. Granted, if you're using tac stance, it's not as much of an issue, so keep that in mind. But in my opinion, the 2 best suppressors to choose from, depending on your needs, are the Tectonica suppressor and the SAMX50. The reason for that, if you're looking for a suppressor that doesn't really hurt your mobility or slash your aim down sight speed, this is the one to go out of the 2 that don't do it. For instance, the other one is the F-Track Trident Core, but as you can see, it hurts it by 12% compared to 8% with the Tectonica. So really, there's no reason to not rock this one over the Trident Core. The Tectonica is what you want to use if you're looking for the least possible range penalty, but no penalty to your aim down sights or your mobility, if you want to call it that. Now, the SAMX50 is nice because it hurts your range by only 3.2%. That's really not that bad at all. And as you can see, we get 18% penalty to our aim down sight speed. Now compare that to its other counterparts, the DX and the XS. You'll see these 2 right off the bat really hurt your aim down sight speed by quite a bit. Of course, that's not a huge issue if you're doing hip fire or maybe even tac stance, since you're going to be nice and snappy with that. But as you can see, this one hurts it by 3.2%, just like the SAMX50. This one hurts it a little bit more. Honestly, this one, the XS, is definitely not one you want to be using. The DX, you could maybe argue with the recoil, but again, it hurts your aim down sight speed so much, it's really not worth using over the SAMX50. You lose the same amount of range, and you're basically just getting less of a penalty to your aim down sight speed. I mean, look at that. 503 milliseconds, that's kind of crazy. So in my opinion, the Tectonica and the SAMX50 are the 2 suppressors for shotguns you want to go with. So just as a quick little recap before we go into the next section, if you want to use a suppressor and you don't want a crazy aim down sights penalty, use a Tectonica. If you want to be able to hit fire or tac stance somewhat decently with your aim down sight speed being a little bit slower, but also have very minimal penalty to your range, use the SAMX50. Those are my 2 picks. Now this next part is going to be a little bit more subjective, but is it worth running a suppressor over a choke? And in my opinion and in my experience, a choke is almost always a better option to run than a suppressor. And I know the classic minimap is back in Modern Warfare 3. You are going to show up on the radar if you were using a choke as opposed to a suppressor. But because of how useful they are with your spread, having a good tac stance spread without hurting your mobility much, they also give you a little bit of range depending on your choke. It's really hard to pass up these chokes like the Crown Breaker and the Bryson choke when you have things like that compared to the SAMX50 and the Tectonica, and they hurt your range or they hurt your aim down sight speed. Yes, you do get to stay off the radar. That is a huge plus, but to me, I found my builds were a lot better overall when I just ran chokes because they were so much more consistent with tac stance spread and aim down sight spread, and even your hip fire spread is going to be better with a choke. But if you are dead set on being so quiet and no one can hear you, well, they can still hear you in game, but rather no one can see you on the minimap, a suppressor might be kind of useful. I suggest playing around with it, but on some guns, I just found it to be pretty awful. With the Riveter, luckily, you don't have to worry about rocking a suppressor because you can use that barrel that has a suppressor kind of included with it. That is much better than rocking one on your muzzle. So I would say if you're going to rock a suppressor on the Riveter, just choose that barrel because it gives you better range, and it only hurts your aim down sight speed by a very minimal percent compared to like the 30 and 40 of the other suppressors you can rock on it. Now with the other shotguns, you don't have that luxury of having a built-in suppressed barrel, but you can use something like I said with the Tectonica or the SAMX50. But in my general opinion, I would still opt for a choke. That just seems to me like it's the more right way to go, and it really helps the gun's consistency overall, especially with the Lockwood and being very consistent. It just, nothing really beats that in my book. As much as I like to stay off the radar, I would just opt for a choke. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hope you learned something new from it. I know it's a little bit subjective when it comes to which one is better, but I still prefer the chokes, like I said. So, but if you want to go for one of the suppressors, SAMX50, Tectonica, those are your two options. So now I want to know down below in the comments, what are your thoughts on suppressors on the shotguns? Do you think that there's too much penalty for these things to rock on a shotgun? I know some SMGs don't really have many penalties, but they're pretty bad on shotguns. Do you prefer to run a choke like me? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.